Deep fried food is amazing, and I'm sure you already know that. It's been a staple for many cultures for hundreds of years. But things started to get really interesting once it started to combine a certain little ingredient along with the foods that we deep fry. And that being our good old friend, starch. Now starches of course come in many different forms of frying, but by far the most commonly used starch has to be wheat. This is usually done in two methods, either wet or dry. For a wet method, usually water is added to flour to create your basic batter. But if you want to be spicy, you can mix it up by adding a little carbonation, usually in the form of carbonated water or beer. That carbonation creates little air pockets in the batter, and when you fry it, it gets so much crispier. But that's a video for another day. The dry method usually involves either using the flour as is, or, more popularly, creating a product from the wheat itself, aka bread, dry it out, and make breadcrumbs. There are two distinctive types of breadcrumbs out in the market today that are incredibly different. We have the regular breadcrumbs on one side, then we have Panko breadcrumbs on the other side. Now, what really is the difference? Can't be the only one to notice that of recent years, Panko breadcrumbs have been spreading like wildfire throughout the world. Most restaurants these days will highlight the fact that they're using Panko breadcrumbs instead of regular breadcrumbs for the deep frying. So why is that? What's so special about Panko breadcrumbs in the first place? And are regular breadcrumbs still usable? Are they still worth it? Well, to put it simply, the only difference between Panko and regular breadcrumbs is, Panko breadcrumbs are just crustless bread. Crustless bread. Yep, you heard me right, crustless bread. That's pretty much the main difference between the two. You see, Panko breadcrumbs are created in a very special and kind of unique way. They're not baked in a traditional convection oven like what regular breadcrumbs are made of, regular bread. Instead, these special loaves are created by placing them in a very specific type of oven that instead uses electricity to cook them through without creating a crust in the first place. Now, as for the history and origins of the Panko breadcrumb, it was actually invented during World War II by the Japanese. You see, while they were out in the field, they usually couldn't carry themselves a large supply of convection ovens to bake bread. So instead, they got these makeshift galvanized boxes that happened to conduct a lot of electricity through them, which made for the perfect box to bake bread. Not sure exactly who had the bright idea of stuffing dough into that box and turn that baby on for a test drive. But they did anyway, so now we have Panko breadcrumbs. So I know what you guys are thinking, how does the brown crust of bread make the breadcrumbs not as crispy when you fry them? Well, that's not the only thing that's different. Okay, fine, you got me. Turns out the way they're cut is also very different. You see, for regular breadcrumbs, they're just crushed up and powderized. For Panko breadcrumbs, they're instead dried and grated, forming these nice crisp, jagged flakes that allows air to flow more through it. So when you deep fry it, that creates little air bubbles that form that nice crispy texture that we're looking for. So I ran a little experiment and I cooked up 4 chicken thighs, 4 using the regular breadcrumbs and 4 using Panko breadcrumbs. And needless to say, the crunchiness factor definitely went to Panko, hands down. Does that mean regular breadcrumbs are obsolete and in the shitter? Not exactly. Not at all, even. I would argue that regular breadcrumbs are superior for holding seasoning. Or more specifically, being seasoned before applying to any food. You see, through the nice, finely ground up nature of regular breadcrumbs, it's already powderized and very fine, like most powdered spices. So when you mix them together, they obviously mix very well. Now on Panko breadcrumbs, on the other hand, the large flaky nature of them tends to let the spices kind of not combine as well. They're still really good, don't get me wrong. They're just not as good as mixing together as regular breadcrumbs since it's, of powdered form. In terms of pre-seasoning, we'll have to give that to the breadcrumbs. And let's not forget the multiple different uses of regular breadcrumbs. Using it as a stuffing, using it as a crust for oven baking, and of course as a carrier for seasoning. The verdict: Panko breadcrumbs definitely wins when it comes to deep frying, but anything else that requires breadcrumbs, regular breadcrumbs still takes the crown. Either way, deep fried foods are banging and amazing. Thank you guys for watching till the end, and I'll see you around. Bye.